All right.
Jordan Gray.
Ben Goresky.
We love to say each other's names when we get together.
They're good names.
Yeah.
They're good 3 and 4 syllable full names.
Yours especially. It's a real author name.
Jordan Gray.
Jordan Gray.
Is that a real name? Yes, it is.
With an AY. Right?
Yes. Can you imagine?
That's the right way to do it.
Yeah. And I was just like, no. You're one of my best friends. You don't know how to spell my name. Ben Goresky of evolvingman.ca. You are an addictions counselor, a good dude. I'm in your wedding party in a few months.
Yeah.
Who else are you?
Getting married. I'm a man.
Now you're a man.
I'm a man. Right. Jordan Gray's viewers. Hello. If y'all don't know me, I am a 34-year-old man and I live in Vancouver. Friends with Jordan. Got to know each other through our men's group back in the day.
3 years ago,
A few
almost.
years ago. And upward trajectory the whole time. You know, you're the guy who like really pushed me to start coaching again. I had done addictions work for 10 years and then I took a break from that. I did construction and tried a few other things. I started a business, which was really great because I don't have a business degree and I had always wanted to do that. And our friend Steve Parr helped me do that. We did that together. But you were like being in my men's group and like seeing what I was working on at the time in my life pushed me to start coaching and start like giving back more. And like
you can do more than what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you have gifts to give, and I believe in your heart.
So thank you, sir, because it's been really fun. It's been really good to see people reaching out for help and to be able to give back, and like that stuff really gets me jazzed. It gives me juice. I've been doing young guy mentorship every once in a while.
Yep.
Where I like walk in the woods with these like teenage guys who need mentorship, and man, it's so fun. It's great. It's really great. It's like talking to a younger version of yourself.
So nourishing.
Yeah, probably ready for kids. You hear that, babe?
He's ready. Here comes the insemination.
Not just yet, okay?
Few buds.
We're almost ready.
My mom was actually, speaking of you, my mom was joking not too long ago that anytime I start dating someone new, she's like, oh, it's only a matter of time before they start a blog. Because when people like are close to me, they either start coaching or start blogging. And so it's funny to hear you like start off with, yeah, I was pushed to coach because of being your friend. I'm like, that does happen.
It's your infectious influence. I have that on people as well, and I really appreciate that about you. Like it's, you know, it's you really are the product of your top 5 people that you hang out with, right? They do infect you, whether they're like have an infectious personality or not.
Yeah.
You just sort of do that to each other. So it's good to be friends.
100%. Yeah, I still feel like that's like the most durable and reliable like life hack of all. It's like the master life hack. It's like be around people that have integrated the thing that you're looking to integrate, and you can't not do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have another friend who's starting a similar kind of like personal brand business right now, and she was offered the opportunity to go and live with someone else who's like further down that path than she is. And she's like, oh, it's nerve-wracking. This person's so successful, and I'm just like getting started out, and I don't know if I can do this because it's like bringing up all of my like my worthiness stuff. And I'm like, there is no better thing you could do for where you are than exactly this. Like,
Right.
Like I, 3 or 4 of my closest business friends that I know through the Brotherhood, the business network that I'm in. If I had lived with any one of those guys during my first 2 years, my readership would have grown 4 times as fast, like at minimum, just by being around those people's energies. And it's
So
the ultimate.
ignore your worthiness bullshit. Ignore your pedestaling of other people.
Ugh.
Folks, do not pedestal this man.
Don't.
Do not pedestal him.
I'm such a normal ass dude. When people are like, oh, yeah, I want to do what you do one day. It's like, absolutely do it. Start doing it today. There is nothing special about me.
Get up in the morning. I take a shit.
Yeah.
I eat breakfast.
And sometimes multiple shits. I drink tea. I drink a liter of water and flushes out my organs. And I go, should I write something today? And just, more often than not, I say yes. And it's been 6 years of doing that. And that's like, the only, the only kind of, I don't know, edge that I might have over people that have yet to do it is just that exact sense of like, I just chose to overcome creative resistance more often than not for a sustained period of time. And when anyone does that, not just with writing and creativity, but whatever your work, your dharma, your thing is in the world, like you just show up and you overcome resistance and momentum will occur if you have even like a thimble full of talent in the thing that you want to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody has their resistance point, and pretty much the best thing you can do as a person is go after where you have your resistance and address that and move past it.
Yeah.
So here we are, sitting in the tanning bed in your living room. It feels like a tanning bed.
There's a bright light in front of us, and
right?
the bed's not
They
used
can
to
see
it.
With the elephant.
They can't. It probably
Does this elephant have a name?
elephant.
Elephant.
Yeah. Elephants are my power animal. For those who don't know, I have a big elephant tattoo on my left calf. I have a elephant stuffy as he rubs the microphone with his big phallic schlong. And yeah, this guy sleeps next to my bed every day. I held him when I had a big fever about 2 weeks ago. He's a sweetheart.
It's okay to be a grown man and have a stuffed animal.
Absolutely.
Got to be in touch with the inner child.
Yep. And just having soft things in your environment is a nice thing. This blanket is also soft.
So this is like a fireside chat, except there's no fire. It's like an elephant side chat.
With the lights.
The tanning bed.
Elephant side
Chat.
So, of all of our friends, you are the most actually qualified to do the work that you are doing because you're a proper addictions counselor. And for those who haven't read enough of my stuff and don't know this, even though I've made a full-time income off of being a sex and relationship coach for just under a decade, I have 0 days of formal training in like university as a sex therapist. Like I'm just a hobbyist who was obsessed with my topic and just kept doing it and then got people results. Whereas you work in addictions counseling and you are an addictions counselor. So I'm curious, how would you define what addiction is in like 1 to 3 short sentences? Like what is the epicenter of, what is addiction? Why is addiction? How is addiction? Mm-hmm. Give the folks a little baby synopsis.
All right. I love what you said about training. Do that for the length of the definition.
Go on. I'm listening.
So the definition. All right. Well, we could talk about the training thing in a minute, but
what is addiction
to answer your question? Addiction is a compulsion to. I should be really quick with this. I should have an elevator pitch with this, but it's just changing for me all the time. My definition of addiction as I
that's what I want.
Learn more and
the
get more
freshest
research.
one that's like the most from your actual heart.
So addiction is a compulsion to use a substance or a behavior to escape one's pain to the point of causing negative consequences in one's life where the person continues to use the behavior or the substance despite those negative consequences. Another characteristic is withdrawal and obviously a loss of control over one's life. Where that is rooted, where addiction is rooted, I see it as a loss of connection with one's self and one's community at a deep level, possibly precipitated by trauma. When we're highly traumatized, or just remove the word highly from that, just traumatized at any level, there is a withdrawal where the self, like yourself, does something to protect you, and a wall is built.
So withdrawal from that pain, withdrawal from community, withdrawal from life, just going like deeply inwards and kind of closing off from things in general.
Yeah, and the word trauma really is a reference to this disintegration that happens when something really hard happens to you. It's your brain's inability or your body's inability to integrate what happened. So someone dying doesn't have to be traumatic. It's not always traumatic.
Yep.
If someone dies and you process the emotion in a way that your body can do that naturally, and you go through a process of grief that has some flow to it. That's not a traumatic event. But if someone dies and you're not able to integrate that reality, and you're not able to feel those feelings in a normal way through your body, and I mean normal by your own body standards, not normal by society standards, and that's what causes trauma. It's this like stuckness that occurs. And so what happened to you, or what happened in your world, got stuck in you, and it's in there somewhere. It's in your body somewhere, and it's painful. It hurts. And so your body built up sort of a defense
Like, I
against
can't
that.
process all this pain all at once, so I'm going to give you barriers that allow you to kind of chunk this down, or even just like park this for later, whether or not you face it later. You can't do all this right now. This is too much pain to process, so I'll put that on the back burner.
So it could be like your dad died when you were 10.
Yeah.
It could be you were sexually abused when you were 7. It could be in utero impact trauma from your mom falling off her bicycle when you were 6 months in utero. We don't always know what the thing is, and you can never really go back and undo the thing. So, trauma is a very interesting subject. It's very hard to deal with. It's very hard to heal. But how that shows up in people is all kinds of ways. It's not always addiction. Could be depression, anxiety. A lot of people find that their depression is rooted in some form of trauma, some, unfelt pain, anxiety as well, and, a number of other things. But addiction is one of those things that can show up where basically when you talk to addicts and you ask them about what's going on inside, they're walking around in pain constantly, in emotional pain, sometimes physical pain, and their solution is to medicate that pain.
Right.
And so what we see is this person who's using drugs in excess or using a behavior in excess, and it's damaging their lives. And we're like, well, why don't you just stop that? They're in an automatic state of self-soothing. And that's how addiction shows up.
What a perfect 1 to 3 short sentences that was. Thank you so much, Ben Goresky. And
this is a long form conversation, right?
into our commercial break. That's beautiful. And one of my favorite things that you said, or what I picked up from that, is that I really like the kind of concept creep that both addiction and trauma I feel like I've really had over the last decade, where I think that these two terms they were more guarded, of like only a very sliver percentage of things can be addictions, and like trauma is only the most severe 5% of what happens to humans. And I really like that these two things have been, in the minds of maybe some purists, kind of watered down and made accessible to everyone. And I'm not saying that, someone cutting you off in traffic on your way to work is inherent trauma, and now you're like, your life is over. But having, a wider definition of, guess what? It's not only heroin and alcohol that are addictive. People can also use, Brene Brown jokes about like social media and Starbucks brand muffins, like those being things that people can numb out with. And it's accurate. People can absolutely use food and gambling and sex and work and all these things to numb out with and become addicted to, and that behavioral addictions are also addictions, not just substance addictions. And I also see that as a result of, people having a wider definition of what we consider traumatic, and not to the extent of, well, now we're all just really fragile, unique, special snowflakes, and all pain is as severe as being, consistently, beaten by your primary caregivers in childhood. But it's not only that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want to water down addiction to the point where we don't understand what it is anymore, and we can just say like, oh, I'm just so addicted to my morning latte. Like
just like someone saying that they're depressed when they're just like kind of sad that morning.
You're
like,
sad.
Well, depression is a different thing, and
exactly.
It's like you're functioning and you seem quite fine. You just you watched The Notebook last night and you're sad that Ryan Gosling
Yeah.
isn't married to you, whatever.
And it's normal to have a feeling like that. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you need to like
Pathologize it and be like, oh, now it's this thing.
go to the doctor. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I hear Prozac's a thing because I was sad this morning.
But I like what you said. Like, you're right. It has evolved over time.
Shifted.
Our cultural understanding of addiction has evolved over time, and our cultural understanding of trauma has definitely evolved over time. That word was unknown to so many people 10 years ago, even, right? Yeah. And now people are starting to get it, especially with guys like Gabor Mate reaching such a huge audience, and talking about how important understanding of trauma is. And people need to, we can't compete with our pain with each other. Like, oh, my pain's greater than yours.
The Pain Olympics.
But people also need to, I think people are pretty hard on themselves, and they're like, I feel like all of these feelings, like, and I'm super alone and suicidal, but my life hasn't been that bad. Look at these people over here.
Totally.
Their lives are horrible. Those are like, that's real trauma over there.
I'm not allowed to complain or talk about it because compared to what some humans have gone through ever, mine's minuscule. It's like, maybe. And pain is pain. I think that all humans have the same maximum, ceiling or threshold.
Yeah.
And like you said, once it hits a certain point, your mind does just kind of partition off and go, okay, well, here's the size chunk that you and any human could go through right now, and we'll park the other 80% that isn't, move throughable right now, and that's fine. And I think that everyone has that same ceiling, and regardless of what the source of the pain or wounding or trauma was, humans are humans, and we process these things in very similar and predictable ways.
Yeah, like we just have to get the message out that you can't compare traumas with other people, and that you just need to acknowledge your pain for what it is and give it the space it needs. Because in our culture, we don't do that. It's not normal to give your pain the space that it needs.
Yeah.
We have going back to like the thing I mentioned around grief, like we have a culturally expected grief period. Yeah. And it's even in the DSM-5, I guess. There's something about how like there's a grief period, and like if it's after 6 months, if you've been sad for more than 6 months, you're clinically depressed.
I thought it was like 2 months or something that felt like even more restrictive.
Well, they probably have done that because in the DSM-4 it was 6. Okay. I haven't read the 5 because I'm not interested, but yeah, like we have all these culturally imposed norms on
this is how much grief you're allowed to have,
how much sadness you're allowed to have.
This is your sadness threshold. If you're a human, here's your ceiling. It's like there is individual variance, and some people are more sensitive than others. Some people have more, resilience or more threshold for pain than others. Like, Vadim, one of our mutual friends, he is one of the most ridiculous pain thresholds I've ever seen in a person. And he, came out of a pretty major shoulder surgery maybe a year or so ago now. I remember he basically almost didn't use pain meds at all, and just had this like 24/7 like cooling water thing on his body. It wasn't enough pain that like he couldn't use his arm at all, but was never really bothered by it. Whereas when I get my wisdom teeth removed, I'm like a baby, and I'm down and out for a week, and I'm like, oh, this pain is awful. And,
so everybody has a different
set point,
a different threshold, and the main thing is like we all need to be encouraged just to feel whatever our feelings are, because we're so good at rationalizing them away, talking like about them rather than feeling them, and more often than not just like denying them altogether. Which is
it's racing into our heads.
Part of what creates addiction in the first place is like when you deny your emotions and when you like reject a part of yourself, get ready to experience trauma anytime something intense in life happens, because
if you're already like sitting on this 90% like stack of pain, any 15% bump that comes in is going to make you pour over and go, wow, like I'm responding to this so strongly. It's like, well, do you have old residue that you've done nothing with? Because that's a contributing factor to how much you're feeling today's thing. And maybe it is disproportionate response because there is so much of that unhealed repressed stuff. It's just like, when are you going to give me any attention or the time of day? Because I'm just sitting here waiting to be processed. And there's been research around how, chronically repressed emotions do lead to disease, and that that just like doing nothing with your feelings, of course, is going to one of the most, like, still to this day, one of the most passed around quotes of mine from any of my writing, and I'm paraphrasing, something like, whenever you say no to an emotion, it goes down to the basement to lift weights. Like it goes down and gets stronger, so it can come back up and like bang on the basement door and be like, "Are you listening to me yet?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep ramping it up.
Yeah.
And I love that visual because, yeah, for me in my life, it's been so true. Anytime I've had panic attacks or had, really anxious months, it's because I'd consistently, prior to that, been sitting on some emotion or, denying some pain that I was in. And
Yeah.
once I just let myself bawl my eyes out or start exercising again or like move my body and move the energy, it dissipates.
Yeah. You ever watch Netflix?
Yes.
You ever watch This Is Us?
It's so funny. I just started watching it. Like, I'm probably 4 or 5 episodes in. So yeah.
For someone who understands like human relationships and has done like
And family systems work.
family system stuff, yeah, and just like been in the field for a while, that show is fucking well done.
Yeah.
And it's non-violent, which is great for me because I don't watch a lot of violent stuff anymore or scary stuff. But yeah, we're at like episode 14 in season 1. It's a pretty long season. And I won't spoil anything, but basically one of the characters is like, he stuffs all of his feelings, and he's like so performance-based. Like the way he shows value in the world is by being awesome. And he's like RoboCop. You probably already know the character, but like basically in episode 14, all this stuff like stacks up, and you see him bottling it all up and trying to stuff it in a jar. And the way they show it, you're like, oh, this is what this guy learned as a kid. It was to, like, A, I have to perform in order to be of value in the world. B, if I don't, I'm a worthless piece of shit. C, I can't feel my emotions. Like, it's bad. It gets in the way of my productivity. And you see this building up for him as an adult, and you're like, wow, this guy is going to shoot himself or somebody, or he's just going to go and fall over dead because
his body's going to turn on him and be like, dude, enough. I can't hold anymore for you.
Yeah. And the way they show that, you're like, okay,
it's understandable.
I need to not do that in my own life.
Right.
Like,
cautionary tale.
Yeah, dude.
Don't do that.
So good. So yeah, I recommend that for people. This Is Us. It's a great sort of family. That's just great story. Family going through life. So yeah, don't stuff your pain.
That performance-based mindset definitely has taken out a lot of people.
Yeah. So that, going back to the addiction thing, that's what I would say is the definition of it. And yeah,
a nice little segue I have here is that the word codependency was born of the addiction realm. Like, my first experience with the word codependency was from AA literature for Alcoholics Anonymous. And, it had a different definition when it first came out decades ago, and it has kind of morphed multiple times. And now it's this kind of what I see as like a catch-all term for, don't be too needy, watch out for the needs that you have in a relationship. And yeah, just like certain words that I think are very, in my opinion, overly prevalent in like pop psychology and like the articles that get passed around social media, like toxic and narcissist and sociopath, and these things that are just, easy catch-all terms that people overuse. I feel like codependency is also one of those. So yeah, let's talk about codependency, what that means to you, and whether first like the addictions definition and then the intimate relationship definition.
Yeah, you and I have the same origins with this word, and I'm glad you brought it up because it's a hot topic in my life and in my discussions with friends.
This
lately.
guy's codependent as fuck, so yeah, really all up in his life.
So codependent. I'm a master.
Who am I without my fiance?
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I went through rehab when I was like 15 years old.
For drinking.
Yeah. And pot and anything.
So what does that look like?
People ask me what I
13, 14, 15, you were just like getting shit-faced every weekend or
daily. And high every day. Yeah.
And what pain was that mainly numbing out?
Loneliness, like a profound loneliness and isolation and feeling of not knowing my place in the world. And, terminal uniqueness, the need for attention and love.
Yeah. Attention, approval, identity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, themes that I think people are like, oh, who struggles with those themes at 13, 14, 15? Everyone.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been quite public about like having tried to kill myself when I was 15 years old, and people are like, people can be like depressed when they're that young. No, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, like the suicide attempt, like I think it's like it's one of the highest cohorts of like the ages you can be. Like a lot of it happens in high school. So yeah, these are universal themes.
Yeah, for sure. It's just hidden, but if you could do an honest poll of all 15-year-olds in a class and have them each like actually talk about what's going on inside of them.
Like, raise your hands. How many people have this crossed the mind of?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know, at least a third or a half, if you're being honest.
Who's on anxiety meds? Who's on ADHD meds? Who's on depression meds?
Yeah.
Like,
whose parents are in therapy and aren't supposed to talk about it. Like, whatever. So back to you being a booze hound.
So I was a booze hound when I was 15, and I quit before I was legal, and I haven't drank since, which has been interesting. No. And I never will. I just, alcohol is not, it doesn't carry an energy of anything that I ever want to put in my body again, except for in tincture form.
Right.
So,
and those pine pollen shots.
Yeah. But my parents, they came to the rehab with me. I mean, I was there all the time, every day for like 13 months. It's a total overhaul. It's like a total overhaul in my life. And very powerful, and it did change the direction of my life.
You can live in rehab treatment for 13 months.
You actually go home to the homes of the kids who are farther along from you. Kids who are on steps 4 to 12, you go to their homes. And then when you get to step 4, you go home. So you have this like homecoming that happens.
But did you have really cool. Was the first month like an intensive live-in, or like what was the most like?
So the first 8 months were me going home at night with these kids, but we were at the center all day. It was like 8 a.m. until usually 8 p.m.
So were you like not in high school classes during that year?
Nope, out. And all those kids had dropped out anyways. Like none of those kids are in.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did finish high school at some point?
I did. They have like a classroom at the rehab at the later half of treatment. You can catch up a bit.
I'm learning things about you. You had a full year. All right.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it was rough. Like in the beginning, like you can't have a watch. You can't have anything with a brand name on it. You get watched everywhere you go. You have to be taken to the washroom, and then they like stand outside. And
so you're not sneaking whatever your drug choice is?
So that you're not running away, because you're there against your will. All the doors are locked from the inside.
You're a minor. Your parents have like brought you there, I'm guessing.
And you have to ask to talk to other kids who are at your same step. So like, because kids will just conspire to like get out of there. So absolutely. You were never left alone with anyone who's on steps 1 to 3. And you had to ask to like, hey, can we talk? And you'd be like, what are you eating over there? Cheese sticks and peanut butter?
So who were you mainly talking to while you were there? Like the counselors and the support workers?
Yeah, and the other like newcomers, they call them. But yeah, it was like group therapy all day. That's what was going on. Like Monday, 5 groups, 5
part of me
sessions.
That's like jealous of like, man, you got a year of group therapy when you were 15? Or
yeah, like, the group therapy like addict.
I mean, yeah, but like how much of a gift that could be to like give a teenager that much self-awareness of their pain.
It was a gift, and
eventually, I'm sure it wasn't from day one for you.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't. I rebelled for a while there, but in the end, like when I went back to high school, my emotional intelligence and my understanding of myself was definitely ahead of my cohort.
Yeah.
And I'd been through like a really challenging time, so it actually got me off on a good foot. The key is to not relapse when you're a year out, which some of my friends did, and just like things always get worse.
In general, it's probably to not relapse, but
don't relapse.
Yeah. Whether it's a year out or 3 years out.
Yeah. So we go to rehab, and this was an intense rehab center where the family has to come twice a week, and they do their own therapy sessions, and they get taught about codependency. As soon as they drop you off, the counselors there say, you got to stop worrying about your kid. You need to start figuring out how this has affected your life and how you are a part of the problem. They subtly put, but basically tough pill to swallow, right? Because the parents are like, fix my kid. And then they're like, we're going to fix you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your kid is in your family system, and this is a group issue.
Yeah. And inevitably the families can see how the entire family has deteriorated in a way that all of the like all the energy is centered around the addict and trying to help them, which makes a lot of sense. Like when you have a kid who's an addict and they're, committing crime and running away and they're on the streets and you're trying to help them. But what ends up happening as a result is you become obsessed with helping your kid and fixing your kid. And that relationship very quickly becomes codependent, where you're like willing to do anything to change the course of this kid's life.
Yeah. And give up all your boundaries and sense of self and identity in the process. As there's like a slow erosion process of, okay, it's all whatever it takes. And like, never mind this. And, oh, you need money. Oh, you need shelter. Cool. Whatever. Like just make it happen.
And it makes sense because really the first 10 years of life are kind of a codependent process where your kid needs you and
we're just dependent.
Like they're dependent on you.
Useless pretty much for a good number of years.
Right. It's not codependent. It's dependent.
Yeah.
So that was the original understanding that I had of codependency and that my parents had of codependency. They went to this program afterwards called Al-Anon, which is the codependent program, the program for families or loved ones of alcoholics or other addicts. Addicts in general. And that's a really good program. It helps people deal with their own process of letting go, basically, of the addict and allowing, like, rekindling some boundaries in their lives. And what inevitably happens when dealing with an addict is people overstep their own boundaries trying to help the addict. They'll
overfunction.
They'll give them money. They'll enable.
And I'd say more often than not from a place of love and like, oh, this is probably the right thing to do because, if they need a hit of this thing and they need money for it, then like, well, I guess better me give them $20 than them have to break into a car and steal it. Like, different levels of severity, but people, it can come from a good place and still be not the right thing. We have another mutual friend that was a pretty full-on drug addict for a good number of years, and I remember her saying at a certain point, quite early in her process, her parents gave her this massive gift of saying, like, we will give you endless love and nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, we're not supporting you while you're in this. We're not giving you shelter. We're not giving you money. We're not helping feed this.
Yeah.
We love the fuck out of you. You're our daughter. We want good things to happen for you, but there's very little we can do while you're in this.
Yeah.
That will help you break out that isn't us enabling you. So like, we wish you well. We love you. Let us know when you're really ready to let go of this stuff. And like, damn, what beautiful boundaries for those parents to have. And I'm sure one of the hardest conversations you'd ever have of basically being like, I'm cutting you off from a lot of stuff because what you're doing is hurting you and it's hurting us. So we wish you well. I look forward to your return.
So hard to do as a parent.
So hard. Imagine.
And my parents were encouraged to do that too, with me, because for part of the time that I was using, they were already at that rehab with my brother. So we both went through the same rehab. So they were already getting counseling on how to deal with me. So they were relatively tough on me in terms of not enabling. They had been through the ringer already with my brother, and that was tough.
And knowing your parents, who are truly some of like the sweetest, kindest, most well-meaning adults I've ever met, it's so easy for me to imagine basically any family system having this as a potential issue. If your beautiful hearted parents could like have to go through Coda and Al-Anon and all these programs for their two kids, like this stuff, this isn't me.
Can happen to anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. It's such a universal theme that can just descend on anyone. It's, it is, addiction's a disease, and just like breast cancer can swoop down on any human, it's, predominantly women, but
right.
Yeah. Just to like throw that out there and kind of alleviate any shame, guilt, resistance that any person might have of like, oh, like, how could I have parented differently? Or like, how could I have been in this family system differently for this to not have happened? It's like, stuff just, people have pain, trauma's a part of life. And some people find an easier way into a specific way to numb, and it just gains momentum, and there it is.
Yeah. These days, nobody comes out normal.
No. Yeah.
Right. Nobody comes out normal.
I remember seeing a Gary Larson Far Side comic. It's like one of those one panel comics, and it's just a drawing of like I don't know, a couple thousand empty folding chairs in a big stadium and like 5 or 6 people scattered throughout. And the caption says, the international annual like normal family convention, like healthy family convention, probably normal family.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, I'd be surprised if it is even like 1 in 5,000 families that are just like really well-adjusted, healthy, high-functioning all the way through, and not high-functioning in the way that they're then, like that character in This Is Us, that are like so perfectionistic, like, oh, we're the Brady Bunch and everything's flawless.
Yeah.
But just like, really wholehearted, loving,
Yeah.
validating people from day one onwards. Like,
Yeah.
it's just such an impossible crapshoot to not have life descend and like throw its shit at you, or
Yeah.
one or multiple people in a family, and have something come up.
Yeah, you're gonna have the odd person who's like relatively normal and stable and doesn't have anything like addiction or whatever happened in their life. But like, let's just say that there's people like that out there. Mm-hmm. You can't have a family which is always like 4, 5, 10, 15 people, depending on like what size you look at.
Yeah.
You can't throw that many people together and not have
Someone
drama and craziness happen in that family. Like, it's just everybody's family's fucked
in some way. And that's like, I love that thing of like, the more personal, the more universal. Like, the more we think, oh, this thing is just us, and it's like our family's weird in this way, it's like that's the surest fire sign that you're tapping into something that like just humanity deals with.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of fun, maddeningly enjoyable part of life that we're all just here manifesting as personalities, and there's going to be people that will piss you off, who you just clash with, and some of them are teachers for you, some of them are teachers in other ways, but like, I don't know, just a whole big, just hilarious, like bunch of jelly beans in a huge glass jar that you're shaking up, and you're all clanking into each other, and you kind of like refine each other through years or decades of living, and hopefully you come out just like a rock tumbler, like you come out a bit smoother, and like a gemstone at the end. But that has to come from all of the conflict and
all the
and
polishing
funniness.
So going back to the codependency thing, so
that in relationships.
Yes. Okay. So there's the original view of codependency we both had, where it's like an addict and the codependent.
Yeah.
And they, the way I used to see it was the addict is using whatever they're using to avoid themselves or avoid their pain. And they're focused on the drug or the process, right? Yeah. The codependent is focused on the addict and is like in some way supporting them, sustaining them, trying to fix them, and keep them stable, because the addict is on a trajectory that is death. Like, death is over here, and the codependent is like, no, come back. Like,
don't die. You need to keep
care
going.
of yourself. I'll give you a home. Okay. Just stay safe, and that's kind of the relationship. The codependent gets fuel and gets energy from, little pieces of progress that they see in the addict each day that they're alive or whatever.
It's getting better, maybe, hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah. I want. And the addict gets their fuel from the drug. Or the process. So that's how I originally saw codependency and addiction. And, in the Al-Anon program, they say that addicts have these like horns that, make them do like crazy, dark, evil things or whatever. And codependents have these holes in their heads that fit the horns perfectly. And they're just like, shink, they just like link up together. And so, they're like they're a perfect fit in some way. So if you're watching this or listening to this and you had an alcoholic father or an alcoholic mother or an alcoholic brother, and you can't seem to kick these relationships that you keep getting into with your lovers that are also alcoholic, that's a sign that there's a codependent pattern in your life where you were taking care of your alcoholic dad or your brother or your mother, and you develop these tendencies on focusing on the other person and trying to help, and you probably have a great heart, and that's why you originally formed those patterns. But when when you do that stuff at a young age and you form that programming at a young age, it's very common for it to come out when you're an adult, and no matter how hard you're trying to undo it. So these are hard patterns to work with. And my parents are still going to Al-Anon 18 years later. They're still going to Al-Anon because, they say like they still have more work to do and they have service work to do. But these patterns, we all have some patterns, and we're working for our whole lives to like steer them in the direction of health, right?
One of my favorite ways that I heard Melody Beattie talk about codependency is she was like, it's basically just, Coda and Al-Anon, and like the healthy opposite of codependency is basically just like a mind your own business training of like be in your own lane,
Totally.
like stop over functioning and like cleaning up other people's stuff and like supporting them on every level. It's like, get back to your life, have boundaries, set your own goals, like, do your stuff, and don't put 90% of your mental and emotional bandwidth towards, enabling or supporting or managing the lives and emotions of others.
Yeah.
Not your job.
And an addict, when told that stuff, will go, okay, that sounds easy. Like, manage your own life, like take care of your own stuff. I'm like, okay.
Right. Because an addict is used to being selfish.
And the codependent, when you tell them that, they're like,
right. Then who the fuck am I?
Sure?
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. Really?
Yeah. And they're so, the set point of their life, they're so used to being enmeshed in the lives of others. I've seen people in sessions I've done with clients who are like, I can watch the gears grinding their mind of like how difficult of a concept that is of like, what do you mean don't have most of my life's energy be about other people? Like, and then, really having to, reclaim, or more often than not, like claim for the first time their own sense of self outside of being a helper or enabler, or like, oh, but my life is about, keeping my kids happy. I remember this quote that I understood the seed of truth in it, but also kind of made me cringe, that a parent is only ever as happy as their least happy child. And I was like, I get it. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't get it 100%. I'm sure there's a lot of truth to that of like, you want your kids to do well, of course. And there's such a codependent, there's DNA baked into that of like, and I also hope that you as a parent have your own identity, your own hobbies, your own friends, and other things that give you emotional nourishment outside of just the identity of being a parent. Even if you are highly identified as being a parent, fine. That's not inherently bad or wrong or needs to be undone. There's nothing to pathologize there. But that mindset of like, that's where your happiness caps is how they're doing. It's like,
good luck.
And exactly. Like you're hooking, it's that external locus of control. You're hooking onto something outside of yourself and saying, I give you my power.
Yeah.
Like now of my 4 kids, if one of them struggling, that's where my happiness is capped. It's like, well, that's a choice. And that's not inherent in being a parent or in relationship of any kind with any human.
Yeah. Especially because you're not really in control of that kid. Like,
no, of course.
Like, anybody who's any parent who's watching this, who is honest with themselves, can acknowledge that they're doing their best with their kid, but it's largely out of their control, especially after, the first few years. And like, you'd better work on disidentifying with what's going on with your kid and not making that a metric of your value as a human, because that's like, measuring your value as a human based on the traffic outside. Like that child is, I'm not religious, but it's God's child, it's like,
they're just loaned to you for a couple of years and then they're kind of passed on.
Yeah. It's a project. So, okay. Our modern day understanding of codependent. If you couldn't relate to the previous definition of codependency, just wait.
Get ready for this one.
We'll include you with this one. If you felt left out, we got you. Okay. So the other understanding of codependency is kind of in relation to our understanding of conscious relationships and what an unconscious relationship would look like. And the thing that comes to mind the most for me is like a couple using each other and like sucking energy from each other. This it's sort of a subtle distinction, and it's going to be really hard for people to identify this in their own lives quickly. It really does take some digging to find out what codependent patterns you have in your relationship or in your life.
But they're there.
Because
There.
like we are in relationship because we enjoy each other's company, and like Jordan has qualities that I don't have, and I feel a certain way when I'm in his presence. And so what's the difference between that and me clearly using him for something, and then he uses me for another thing in return? Like I rub his back, he rubs mine. Right. We do that in relationships where we have these kind of links, like we just described with alcoholic and codependent, where it's not necessarily an addict and a codependent. We're using each other to fulfill or play certain roles that oftentimes we've predetermined in our unconscious mind.
When you say predetermined, as in their ghost figures of like, oh, I'm actually projecting father figure or like brother on you, or more predetermined of like, I'm going to use this person for this and here I go?
I meant the first one. Yeah. I mean, the second one is a little more conscious, like,
yeah.
And yes, you could be in a place where you're doing that in your relationship where it's really clear that, like, let's say one of you makes all the money in the relationship and the other one of you is like, you guys have an agreement where like, I'm using this person for money and they're using me for sex. And we're in a relationship, right? We've seen those relationships. Everybody watching this probably knows somebody that's in a somewhat of almost like a transactional, like a business transaction type romance relationship. Maybe they're married, right? So there's those. But yeah, going back to like what you said about ghost figures, something that has been coming back to me lately is this teaching around the script precedes the actors. Yeah. So going back to how we all grow up in certain environments and we have certain patterns that go on in our home. A lot of us will almost try to recreate those patterns unconsciously in our relationships as a way of somehow resolving unhealed stuff. So for me, for instance, something that comes up with my partner sometimes is she's like really strong-willed, and you know, like when she wants something, she gets it. And I grew up, my brother was a bully, and when he wanted something, he got it. And I was always sort of like left in the dust and felt like not heard. Yeah. And so for me, with my partner, just with her basic way of being, I get confronted. I get triggered and I feel bullied, and then we get into conflict where like I'm pushing back against her to like take my power back. Like, you can't tell me what to do, you know? Yeah. And like I'll just turn around and say that to her sometimes, and she's like asking me. Let's just say it's not really an activated moment, and then I'm fucking activated. She's like
asking you to pass the salt, and you're like, "You don't own me."
Yes. So and if she's playing into that, if she plays into that in a certain way, we could get into like, that could be a sign of a codependent pattern where like, maybe if she had something in childhood that predisposed her to just playing into that pattern, and we just like do that round and round over and over again because we're both trying to heal something and we don't recognize it. So that's like my basic understanding of, New Age, or like the new understanding of codependency, which is kind of more complicated. But basically, going back to the basic level that I see it, it's like two people draining each other's batteries, using each other for some purpose. And when we're sufficiently drained, the relationship runs out of energy.
Yeah, it's that non-sustainable cult of two, of like, I use you for this, use me for this, and we'll be in our own special little bubble of our relationship being this like unique special thing that only we have. And a friend was telling me about a stand-up comedian she saw recently, and they had a bit where, a joke that was like, you know what the best part about being in a relationship is? It's not the sex, It's about quietly judging, or no, overtly judging everyone who isn't you two, and like talking about how special and how like how much better you are, and like that is like, you know, the truth and humor. But that's a telltale sign of like a pretty tight codependent bond of like, yeah, it is that cult of two. It's that specialness of like, we're just this way and no one else is like us, and like fuck the world. We've got our like thing, and this is all we need. And I've also heard people, you know, like critics of the word or concept of codependency as it being a very North American Western mindset of it's basically like been born in this culture of, be all that you can be, independence at all costs. And we're so afraid of connection with each other that codependency in its modern definition is basically just like a way to shame getting needs met through any relationships, whether it's your intimate relationship, whether it's friendships. And, someone that would live in like a small town in Italy who's like hyper connected to his community, they don't talk about codependency because they're just like, well, we're a social species, as human beings, and we are interdependent. Yeah. And so of course I like get things from my friends and I also give things to them. So where would you see is it just that in the giving people are drained because they're not like, they're making each other too much their battery of like, I get my, the whole fucking happy wife, happy life thing of like, I get my happiness for you. I get my fulfillment from you. I get my sense of purpose and meaning and, everything from you. And like, I don't even like want to entertain the idea of friends because you need to give me everything, which to me is like the biggest detriment of modern romanticism of like, I forget who it was.
North American romanticism. Right?
Exactly. There's some philosopher who was joking about how the most dangerous man in the world was Walt Disney, because he was just like pumping out this unhealthy version of I guess you could label it as like hope of like, the highest thing you can aspire to in life is this nasty codependent bond where, you are completed by each other and like, oh, I was half a person, but now I found my better half and now I can be a happy functioning person. And God forbid that person ever, gets cancer and dies when I still have 20 years left of my life because I, like I remember in Twilight, there's that same theme of like, I wouldn't want to live if I didn't have you. It's like, okay, easy pop songs and media.
And it feels so good to watch because that's the dominant reinforced story. I love your definition is way better than mine. Mine was like micro, and this is a very good like broader picture.
Did I even just define it? I feel like I was just like pontificating about it. Which part did you see as the definition?
Maybe you didn't define it. I think you probably did. We could probably rewind and get to like a core piece there, but
right, like using people in a draining way versus
the special relationship. Right. You said about like the cult of two, like that's codependency. That's the like idea of specialness and uniqueness, terminal uniqueness.
No one gets us. Only you understand me. It's like, well, if you tried to make 10 friends, other people might also be able to understand you. You just have this mindset of like, you're my person and that's it. That's the end. I'm retired from humans other than you.
Yeah. And when you take that mindset, you're predisposed to maintaining that status and that illusion at all costs. And so you frantically do whatever you have to do to maintain the fairy tale, so to speak. Right. Yeah. And so like, nope, we don't have problems. Like you just shove anything that gets in the way of your specialness story into a closet somewhere, and you don't talk about it as a couple.
Yeah, because that threatens the bond that you have of like, no, like we've got our status quo and don't fuck with that because I'm getting enough of what I need and you're getting enough of what you need and we don't talk about it. We've got these.
That's it.
Robert Glover talks about these covert contracts of like, we both signed these, but let's never talk about it. And, how dare you ever deny me sex because you owe me this for what I give you? Like, that's never explicit. But, like, if that's a part of your relational contract and, like, you're not allowed to say no to your partner regarding certain things, it's like, watch the fuck out because that's going to, like, just ruin whatever sense of, trust and intimacy and connection you were pretending to have when it's built on that foundation of flimsiness. And
you got it, man. That is codependency. So if you didn't already recognize it, you probably do after that description, because we all have these we've all had experiences of being in a relationship where we had covert contracts. And like who's listening to this has had a conversation with someone where you realize there's been a miscommunication about what was agreed upon, and you're like, what? I didn't know that was expected of me.
Right.
And he or she is like, well, yeah, obviously,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I didn't have to say it, but, and you're like, what?
Yeah. It's like you tripped over this like tripwire you didn't know was set out for you by your partner.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that, I'd be curious to sit with this longer and like see if this would hold up in most situations or all situations. But yeah, I have a sense that even explicitly naming these things almost already makes it less codependent, because the person's actually like consciously agreeing into these contracts. You're like, and again, the point should never be that you can bring a thing to your partner and say, all right, now in our relationship, you have to do X 100% of the time. Whatever this thing is, like whenever I bring you, whenever for the rest of our 65 years of being married together, if someone gets married young, or we expand life expectancy that much more, and everyone who's listening to this lives to 138, great. That, saying every time I want to tell you about my day, you have to listen forever. It's like, well, that's not sustainable, because life happens and there will be days where I do not have bandwidth to listen to your day, at least not in that moment. And I should be able to say, let's park this. I need to like have an hour of my own time and we'll come back to it. So yeah, I think it's the rigidity of these expectations or dynamics or boundaries versus a more dynamic, like, I will attempt to do this as often as I can, and I promise I will also disappoint you, and there will be moments where I cannot deliver on this thing flawlessly forever, because I'm a human and I'm inherently imperfect and fallible and will fuck up because human.
Yeah, so the source of the key to untangling codependent relationships is it's really about moving towards a conscious relationship. It's about digging out things from the shadows that are there, covert contracts, expectations. It's really about like understanding your relationship patterns together, which requires doing some of this work together as a couple.
Self-awareness and tough conversations and courage and willingness.
Yeah, learning to set boundaries and learning to ask for what you actually want in relationship rather than just expect the other person to read your mind, and the willingness to have the other person not oblige in that moment or at particular times if they can't or if they don't want to. Just like giving your, I think you said wiggle room or something, flexibility, and that word really does ring true, because a healthy relationship has room to move.
Yeah, it's
right?
a dance.
An unhealthy relationship is like super rigid, and like probably a lot of people watching this can relate to like seeing their grandparents at face value. A lot of our grandparents have relationships that seem super like in a rut, and they have like, he does this and she does this, and they do that over and over again, and like she always does the dishes, he always watches TV, and like just like all these patterns that are just in a super deep rut, and maybe they had conscious conversations about those things and agreed on them. A lot of people just fall into them. Yeah,
but maybe that rut is a groove, and they like it that way, and they had talked about it. Yeah.
But for me, and looking at my grandparents' relationship, there's a lot where I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of like a poster for a codependent relationship. And there's a lot of unsaid things in both sides of my family, a lot of covert contracts, a lot of like, oh, we don't talk about this, we don't talk about this, we don't talk about this. Like, I was
here's what's off limits forever, and we just don't talk about it. It's like, great.
Yeah. Like, I was having a conversation with my second cousins, but I see them as my niece and nephew the other day they asked me about my relationship with my brother. And they're like, well, I'm going to say
younger,
like 7 and 9 or 8 and 10, somewhere around there, boy and a girl. And they know my brother. They have a relationship with him. I don't talk to him because things aren't good. And one of us can't handle just being around each other. And It is what it is. But these kids asked me when we were at like a family gathering, like, why don't you hang out with him? And why don't we ever see you together? And I just gave them the honest truth about what's going on between us. I was like, well, we had a big fight a few years ago, and
You've got some tension, and it hasn't
there's some
moved.
tension, and I'm trying, I'm extending, and I'm trying to like bring my forgiveness in my heart. But you know, we both need to meet in the middle, and I have certain things that I expect. Like I won't just, one thing I won't do is let's just forget about it and move past it and just like be in the same room together, but not talk to each other and not address the thing.
And that's playing the same game that you said you saw your grandparents of like, I'm not playing into that values proposition of like, and here's the 12% of things we just never broach, and then we can be okay.
Yeah. And so I was in the middle of telling them this. This is very interesting. It's coming to me now. I was in the middle of telling them the story and the reason why I don't have a relationship with him. And my aunt came over and tried to stop the conversation. She was like, you shouldn't be talking to them about this. They have a good relationship with him, right? Like she projected something around like how I was, perhaps like trying to affect their view of him,
Right.
In a negative way.
You weren't tarnishing. You were just like being like diplomatically honest.
I was
of,
being
like,
very honest.
here's
They
what's
want to
real.
know. Yeah. And or she was projecting that like, I was talking about some kind of family secret,
Right.
right? Like she didn't want them to know that him and I are at odds. She just wanted them to like wonder forever why we're never at the same family gathering together. Right. And so, and I sort of diffused it and was like, I'm just telling them the truth and there's nothing wrong with the truth. But she was like very uncomfortable with it. And like that right there is in how it manifested in my family and in family secrets. That's like a symptom of the problem.
Yeah.
And, like the way out is just honesty. Like,
Air that stuff and move through it and face it with totality. Yeah. One of my all-time favorite quotes from the addiction literature is, "You're only as sick as your secrets."
Yeah.
And those family secrets that are things that, most, if not everyone remembers, but there's that covert contract of like, we don't discuss this ever, and then we can be okay. It's like, or we're not doing as great as we could be because these things are off limits. And leading into naming them is challenging and will stir stuff up. And, this stuff could be moved through and processed in like 2 or 3 hours of a group chat, but no, let's just like sit on them for decades and let it erode the quality of all of our connections.
Let them fester.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's it.
you're getting
Codependency.
married in about 6 months. How do you feel about that?
I feel really good about it. And it feels weird to say that. I mean, I felt good about it since I proposed 6 months ago. But
why does it feel weird to say it?
I don't know. I just never saw myself like
As a marriage guy?
being, as a marriage guy or just being like as committed as I am. And
Did you think you'd feel trapped like before Shalina, before your partner, where you're like,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's still a part of me that feels trapped because like,
Because you're a man and you value freedom, and that's scary shit.
yeah, and I'm 34, and every year previous to that, like I've integrated all of that. I still have an 18-year-old in me, who wants to like ultimate freedom to just explore the world.
No attachments ever.
Yeah, but every year that I get older, I also understand and value the process of committing to a thing and making like saying that's mine, claiming it,
And then the value that accrues by having claimed it and continually giving it energy of like, this is an appreciating asset and this does get better because commitment does make it improve over time.
Yeah, like this world, there are a zillion paths that you can take in this world, and the key to getting somewhere that you want to get to is commitment. It's what turns you into a fragmented scatter plot. It turns you from that into a shooting arrow towards your dreams. And the truth is, I want a happy, long-lasting, healthy, conscious relationship with my romantic partner and with all my friends. And our wedding is a symbol of that. It's going to be the thing that just shoots us into the next phase. You know, like I have all of my friends that who I have that kind of relationship with at that wedding, including yourself. And so, yeah, I'm super stoked, man. It's organizing a wedding isn't
the most fun part,
easy, but she's so good at it, and she's just like basically taking on so much of it and doing it ahead of time, and you know, a lot of things have just fallen into our laps. It's like I feel so blessed.
You've manifested it.
Yeah, it's like a lot of it feels so easy, and I feel just like there's like a bright light shining on our relationship, and it's that in itself is a blessing. Just feeling like I hit the jackpot with somebody, and so I'm just shining, just beaming.
One of my favorite things that I ever heard you say about your relationship to Shalina, I asked you, I can't remember what the prompt was, what my question was, but basically something on the lines of like, how do you feel having this person, this is before you proposed, having this person in your life on a day-to-day basis, like being, you know, several years into this connection with someone that I see you as being very, you know, alive and aligned with and connected to. And you said, man, it feels like having the cheat codes to life. And I was like, that's beautiful. And just like immediately, you know, as someone who like grew up on N64 and Nintendo Power Magazine, I'm like, I know exactly what you're saying.
Game
it's like,
Shark.
It's like, like the unlimited money, like, you know, unlimited like ammunition, cheat code. That's just like, well, and then I was unstoppable. And every piece of my life was then, you know, it was a positive force multiplier. And here I am, here I go. Like this thing, it provides that kind of holistic safety net underneath your world that, makes everything feel that much more doable and easy and positive.
Yeah, like she opens my heart. She gives me more energy. She makes me stronger. She inspires me to do more with my business. She inspires me to like bring more energy to life because of who she is, but also because I'm able to like take my love for her and like transmute it and like shoot it in a direction in life.
Yeah.
And it feels like cheat codes. And there was some other thing that I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to riff on her for a minute. Like my partner's name is Shalina, and her writer name is Shalina Ayana, and she will hopefully take my last name soon. She runs a thing called Rising Woman.
Yeah.
Online, it's a website with her partner, Heather Pinnell. They run women's groups. They have a program on their site. There's tons of writing. There's tons of content on Instagram and on Facebook and on the website. Lots of articles, stuff on conscious relationships, stuff on the divine feminine or the wild feminine, helping women get in touch with their feminine nature and reclaim parts of themselves that they've rejected, parts of their feminine selves that they've rejected. And she's just a badass creator. And so, I think I encourage women to check out her content, and you can just @Rising Woman anything basically, except for Twitter. And it's just really been fun to see her grow that. And, and to be involved with her in relationship and just to learn and grow. And like, shit is not perfect. We fight hard sometimes.
Yeah.
And
you definitely got a hotter relationship.
Yeah, and there's days where we're like, this isn't going to work, and like the fucking sky is falling, you know? I don't want anybody to think like because we post happy photos of ourselves on Facebook or whatever that things aren't hard and that we're not like digging in and doing the work with each other and we don't scream at each other every once in a while. But you know, net positive, things are good, and I'm grateful, and I really do. There was like a manifestation thing that happened, you know, like her previous relationship was a husband who, they got divorced, and my previous relationships were ones where I was not fully in my power. I was in covert agreements with women, and I was really great friends with a lot of women, but the romance wasn't there, and I was trying to push it rather than listening to myself.
Something was always missing.
Something was missing, but I wasn't able to articulate that because I was a nice guy. Guys, read No More Mr. Nice Guy, please. Understand how, men who have good, big hearts, who grow up in this particular time, have a very good chance of having nice guy tendencies in their relationship. Yep. And then it's not a good thing. Like, it's good to be nice to people, but that's not the nice guy phenomenon. It's like a sick version.
Being a passive, manipulative liar that overfunctions for others and tries to control people's perceptions of them incessantly. And not
exactly.
Nice guy, the phrase, not the reality.
Yeah. And so I was living just over here, and I had a few coaching sessions with a guy where he like very clearly framed for me how I basically give my power away and how I give myself away to other people in an effort to get approval, keep things smooth, and not have conflict, not have to set boundaries with women or with myself or with other men, whatever it may be, and how that was sucking my power away, and I was never going to get the type of relationship that I want, where it's like check, sex is good, communication's good, we're best friends, like all those things. I'm not going to get that until I deal with some of these patterns where I'm giving away my power. And he was right. And when I really dug into that and I wrote down what I want in a relationship, it showed up way quicker than I thought. And I was actually planning on being single until next year. I was like, I'm going to be single till I'm 35. I'm just going to improve myself and go to workshops and, do all this stuff. But she walked around the corner and
showed up in her sweatpants and was like, sup? And you're like, you.
That is basically what happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't in the first month, we were both like, I'm not going to date you.
This isn't a thing.
Like, we both kind of played hard to get in our minds with each other. Like, you're cool, but damaged goods.
That was the mutual projection. You're both like,
just fresh out of relationship.
So messy.
But it just, nature has its way.
Yeah. I've been to, 40, 50 plus weddings in my lifetime, mainly because I was a wedding photographer for years. And I've never been more excited to go to a wedding than being a groomsman for the first time in June of this coming year. And I've told you both, I couldn't be more a stand for your guys' relationship. And yes, you definitely have your hot tendencies and you do have adorable fights. And you also have amazing sex. And you're just like...
How do you know? Are you watching?
I'm filming it from the closet.
Sorry, I interrupted your...
Very good.
Your love... Your
love
bomb.
Yeah. It's a very easy relationship to support because you guys you have a lot of very natural energy of like, of course this, you're very playful and aligned, and you make each other more powerful and grounded. Mm-hmm. And what's the word, not confident, but like see and believe in each of your gifts that you each have such an easy time seeing in each other, but can both struggle to see in yourselves, which again, healthy cheat codes of like, you bolster each other. Yeah. You make each other feel better about yourselves and the world, and it's just easier to be a person with that person next to you.
Yeah. Yep. So we're always doing our work to avoid the codependent stuff, and it's like, it's there.
Maintaining your friendships, maintaining your men's group and your outside connections.
Yeah. We didn't talk about that part. It's like
that was my
subtle
segue.
Yeah, the product of the insular individualistic society is like codependent relationships where you choose one person to be special because we're not connected to each other like they are in Italy, like you mentioned. Community. Right? We don't have community, and so the I mentioned before, a big part of the healing is like entering into a conscious relationship and undoing covert agreements and all of that. But the best way to do that is to do that with other groups of people. Like we do this thing called conscious relationship training together, where we basically put like 20 women and 20 men in the same room, and we do all this shadow work and like almost psychodrama type stuff, and shit gets intense. But it becomes a very useful pressure cooker for cooking up people's relationship issues.
Yeah.
And we're doing it in community. It's way more powerful than one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
Like
having 40 mirrors to trigger you and reflect yourself back to you versus one mirror. They're very different beasts.
It's beautiful, and people form relationships through all of that. They're much more authentic, and it's cost-effective, people. If you're dropping all of your money on one-to-one therapy, and there's a group therapy thing or a group, we don't call it therapy, but
group work.
The group work available, you could try that out, and you might get more benefits. Men who are seeing a single therapist, consider finding a men's group that has a strong essence to it that you could join, because it's probably cheaper than your therapist, and they could help you dig into your work in a more powerful way, and you would get the friendships from it on the side. So that's my soapbox lately, is like, do stuff in groups. And that's why I'm starting a group. Like, I'm starting an online group for the Samurai Brotherhood of, you and I are both captains in the Samurai Brotherhood, and that's like
weekly men's group every week,
in person.
3 hours.
Yeah, that's an in-person thing, and it's growing here in Vancouver. It's blown up, but I think there's a need for the online. There's some guys who just travel so much, and guys who travel a lot
in really remote cities that only have like 5,000 people, and there's just not enough interest to justify it.
Yeah. And a lot of people are isolated, especially when they travel a lot. If you travel half your life, it's really hard to be grounded and have relationships with people that are consistent. Yeah. And so I think we're going to try out the format for the online, or for the Samurai Brotherhood in the online realm, and see if we can make that work, which I'm confident we can. And I'm going to start a group of 10 men for that. And it's the other reason why I've been stimulated or prompted or pushed towards doing a group thing for addiction work, because I do one-on-one addiction stuff, and you do one-on-one coaching occasionally. You've really backed off from that. But yeah, it's like, it's energy intensive for both of us. If you're my client and I'm your coach, we spend an hour and a half together. It's like, it's a lot of energy exchange between you and I, if we do an hour and a half in a group format with 10 of us,
it's dissipated.
Something that happens. It's like more powerful, and it's cheaper, and like, I don't know, it's just magic happens in a group. It's like a better microcosm of the village when you do that, instead of this, like,
I also think of musicians, of like, a solo artist who's just like a guy on a stage playing guitar can make absolute magic. And Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, the right people who come together and make something bigger. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. Like, there's an upward spiral of the individual parts making each other better. And I think that the hive mind aspects of, having a dozen guys in a room or on a call doing group work, there's that much more juice to be squeezed and value to be had from a group container.
That's exactly it, man. That's exactly it. So, just for anybody who's interested in the addictions group, I'll have a sales page on my website. You can just go to my website, evolvingman.ca, because I want to do group stuff with addicts. I want to get addicts in a group together and support people who are, somewhere in between, like, needing to go to rehab. Because if you need to go to rehab, go to rehab. But if you want to, like, step up your recovery, I'm going to call it the Freedom from Addiction course. Like, if you want to, like, level up your recovery from addiction, and overcome some of the thought patterns and some of the patterns that you're running in your life still, if you're 1 year clean or 10 years clean, if you're still running addictive patterns in certain ways, this is it. We're going to do this in a group format, and we're going to identify this stuff. We're going to crush it. We're going to change lives. And I'm stoked.
# crushing it. You heard it here first. Sign up for his group program.
It's $1 million.
It's $1 million a day. And no wonder you're only looking for 10 people to fill those crazy expensive slots.
I only need $10 million, and then I'm set.
So it's just a 10-day program with one person and you. So it is a one-on-one program.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff, brother.
Anything we didn't touch on that you wanted to throw out? How you feeling?
Feels good to me. This was a good elephant side chat. We talked about addiction. We talked about codependency. We talked a little bit about men's work and addiction work and the importance of doing it together and stepping out of isolation. That's my jam, and that's one of your jams. You've got multiple jams. I think we complement each other quite well, sir. Like there was some times where I described something where I was like, you missed the boat, buddy. And then you came on with some amazing, you're like my Jason Silva.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, you busted at least 5 quotes on this show.
Right.
And I think I only have 1 quote in my brain.
Total.
Yeah.
Jason's, yeah. I've had people describe me, Jason Silva, more from like his facial expressiveness and like, it's like when the cosmos are just like bursting through you and all the beauty and yeah.
Yep.
It's like, I might not be, I hope not that expressive, but like, yeah, I could definitely get into these like super, mild hypomanic states of just like, oh, I'm like so
For
angry about this
sure.
thing right now. And like, my face is just like, fireworks are pouring out of my eyeballs.
Yeah. Shots of Jordan Gray. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, man.
Shots of Jordan.
Jordan.
Gray. I was trying to slide in the awe. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a
Got
loose.
Slow. Yeah, that's good.
Swing and a miss.
Cue audience laughter.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is cool.
Yeah.
Good to get to know your viewers, kinda. And yeah, thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for doing these videos. I look forward to your other ones. And I'm all about long form content, man. I don't write many articles and I don't do many Instagram posts, but I podcast, and I love just having conversations with people because
deep dive part.
it's kind of like where I have the least creative blocks, let's just say,
Right.
and the best flow. So
The most room to roam free and be like, where does this actually want to go? Versus like an 800-word article where it's like, oh, it has to be one central theme and only that, no deviation.
yeah.
Which, pros and cons, but
I had my schooling. I did, going back to my credentials, I wrote a lot of papers. I did 4 years of university. So
you're like, enough
Maybe
brevity. It's time to
Yeah, right?
play.
maybe that's where part of your stamina comes from, is like, it's just been all directed at your own thing for a long time, which is really cool. Like going back to the training that you talked about at the beginning, like I really see it as just one form of training or another. The like official channel of learning what I learned was one way to do it, but a person can learn a lot about addiction just by absorbing the content that's out there. And I truthfully think that a lot of university education is going to be like obsolete. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for sure, in 10 to 20 years, because there's like,
It's an old model.
look at everything that's on the internet. Like you can get educated in whatever you want right now.
You
Like,
can literally take Stanford classes through just like listening to free audio
Yeah.
clips on iTunes.
Yeah.
It's like, that is some serious stuff.
yeah, and so employers care less and less about like what your actual credentials are. They just want to interview you and find out what's in your brain,
Yeah.
find out what your character's like, and what edge you have.
Can you provide the value that we're looking to have provided in our business?
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah,
And it's the same argument as when employers are like anxious about letting their employees work from home. It's like, oh, well, how will we know? How will we know if like they're actually at home, like doing their work, and like that, it's like, well, that's an insane question. You'll know because the work is being delivered. Like,
Yeah.
the value is being provided.
Yeah.
So they must have done work at some point because there are their deliverables. Like, yeah. And same thing if someone doesn't have a master's in whatever their, thing is,
Yeah.
if they're delivering the value and the results that the person is after, it's like, well, value is being delivered. So here you are.
exactly. Yeah,
The world was largely built by amateurs.
yeah,
I remember there's a stack of, it's like, Larry Page and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, like a lot of these people that, Elon Musk didn't get a master's in, rocket science and like aerospace dynamics, nor does he have a finance degree, and he made PayPal. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yep. And our societal expectations have to change, and people's personal expectations have to change, and that is happening slowly. But I think a lot of people go to see therapists because there's a level of like trust there just in the credentials, and you can get like your benefits will cover therapy
Yep.
sometimes, right? But like there's so many shitty therapists out there. There's
Yeah.
a lot of therapists out there with more of their own personal problems than you can imagine.
Yeah.
And they're actually not very qualified to be counseling other people.
Yeah.
But they are, because they went to school. And
Yeah,
and
sometimes the most neurotic people go into healing professions because it's a way for them to like bypass their stuff and just go, well, I need to. The wounded healer archetype. Like, I mean, I don't know someone who went into a healing, shadow work therapy profession that didn't have their own stuff to process. But yeah, I think that's different because those people, like, when you're actually doing your work, that's different.
But yeah,
versus by doing this, here's my way of like not looking at my stuff and just getting more intellectual arsenal, building up my toolkit so I can like find extra ways to rationalize my way out of facing my own stuff, which is a very different intention.
Yeah, and one of the issues with professionalizing therapy is there's like all of these, like, a therapist is operating within a box and they're only allowed to say certain things to you, truth be told.
The governing board of like, well, you're not allowed to go here and here, and if someone says they're suicidal, that means you automatically have to do X, Y, and Z.
And so as a person who, people who are watching this, a lot of people have probably seen a therapist at some point and been like, I got nothing out of that. Like,
right. Or that was damaging and I feel worse than when I went in.
Versus like, you can go see Jordan with no qualifications and, like there's probably a ton of people that I've got I know there's a ton of people that have got a ton of value from seeing you, and just paying out of pocket for that service. So I think like something needs to change in society around our expectations of people's like professional credentials and more just value like what actual value results. What value are people actually bringing to their practice? So like, don't worry about finding a qualified therapist, folks. If you've seen a few and it didn't work, like look for someone who you have a gut feeling is going to provide the value that you want and who talks in a way that gets you, and go for them.
Yeah, and I also feel it necessary to name that like I personally know dozens of like phenomenal, caring, talented therapists who are legally accredited. Like if you have rapport with an actual therapist, don't shy away from it because they have credentials, because they're like part of like the old model. No, not at all. It's just, do your own gut check of like, is this the person that I want to be opening up to and sharing this stuff with? You reminded me that there was one of my first clients when I was 22, 23, doing this work, who had gone to see 2 sex therapists for like 5 or 6 sessions each. So basically, was already like, $1,000 or $2,000 deep into his process, and he felt significantly worse having gone to talk to them about his erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, because they both basically gave him like 0 actionable steps and said, you just need to get used to the fact that you'll have this forever. And he was like, that is so disheartening. And then, we did 1 session and he said like, I got more from that session than I, by orders of magnitude compared to what I, negative got from those 2 people. And I just spent like, less than 10% of what I paid with them to get like actual action steps that I now feel empowered with, and that it doesn't have to be part of my life forever. I mean, not to say that there will be some times throughout your entire life where like you'll struggle to get erections because you're stressed. Of course, I'm not saying that, but like, they're basically like, you fucked. So like, and he was like, what? How can you tell me this? And like, what is your job if not helping me through this thing?
Yeah, right.
Just, anyways.
Please do your job.
Yeah. So Ben Goresky, evolvingman.ca. Thank you so much for coming and chatting. This was fun.
Yeah.
And
great times, mister.
Sure we'll have you back soon.
Yeah. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Have a great day. Love from the Elephant Crew. I'm sorry, but...